Hey guys, it's David Pingree out here at Paula Raceway today. We've got Jaime Ellis with us from Twisted Development on our latest project bike, our 2018 Honda CRF250. And this bike is a great motorcycle, but it definitely has a little bit of a soft power characteristic. Is that a politically correct way to say it?
I believe so.
So we wanted to really attack this motor, see what these guys could do. There's always a lot of kind of a lag in development whenever there's a new bike that's completely redesigned from the ground up like this Honda was. So we didn't even touch the suspension. This stuff works pretty well. The chassis on this bike is great in stock trim. We wanted to really focus on making more horsepower. So to that end, Jaime, we came to you. You've built some great stuff for us. And what I love about your guys' program is you'll sell, you're very honest with the customer. If they have this much money to spend or if they have a very specific goal, you'll give them different packages, different options. And it was no different with this. So tell us a little bit about kind of what you guys did to get this power plant working.
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head with the fact that it is a new bike. So first thing we did, we pulled the engine out of the chassis and kind of spec'd everything out. Saw where the clearances were, saw where we had room for improvement, and then started working with those. Piston development was a little bit lagging, as you said, new model, but now everything's on the shelf and rolling. So we use a Vertex piston with this job, and that helped tighten up some of the clearances and used custom Cometic gaskets to tighten up the squish. But overall, I'd say probably the biggest thing that we ended up doing on this bike is the addition of the KTM throttle body. We developed a kit on the dyno that actually made a lot more power, just kind of bolt-on, use all year type of power. It's not gonna wear out or go away. So I think that's probably the biggest thing that of this Honda, the bottom end in the factory trim could use some help. And that was one of the things that really added the most power.
Yeah, and you mentioned that was almost like a 2 horsepower bump on the dyno, kind of across the board. And like what you mentioned there, I mean, if you're changing a cam or it's a really high compression piston, well, now you got to use different fuel. You got parts that are wearing out. The throttle body setup, there's nothing to wear out.
Sustainable. It'll last all year. As long as the life of the motorcycle, it'll be there.
And that's a package that they sell for any brand of bike as well. Just something they found to work. The KTM throttle body with the Vortex Ignition, and they have a setup for that. So I'm really anxious to try it on here. You said it made a big difference. We've obviously added the Yoshimura dual exhaust system. These are, again, it's late in the season. We were waiting for all this stuff to come out, so these are few and far between. I think they're starting to ramp up production on all these parts now, but what else to kind of finish the motor out? Hinson clutch?
Yeah, so anytime you add more power, you have to keep control of it. So that kind of goes hand in hand with a good Hinson clutch where the springs are for the right tension and everything's going to hook up and last the life of the engine. But the porting of the head was definitely a bit challenging. With the 2 exhaust ports, there's plenty of exhaust flow. As to most of the other Japanese or even Austrian manufacturers now to date, a more straight exhaust seems to be the ticket. And this exhaust was so big, it kind of raised some fun challenges. And so we did a little bit of extensive work with that, and that all came out really good. But for the most part, everything on this motorcycle, if you've ridden one, you know how good it feels. So by the time you add the power to it, it's going to be an amazing machine. I'm really excited to see you get out there and ride it.
Yeah, well, myself as well. Some of the other companies that helped us, Acerbis with their full plastic kit, that we went with all red, and that includes frame guards, front disc guard, chain adjuster block down there, or guide. So a lot of little parts and pieces. Faster USA helped us with the Wheelset. That's their hub, mounted to an Excel rim. Those guys do a great job for us. And we threw some Michelin StarCross 5s just for Randy Richardson, my good buddy. These are the ones he came over to my house and mounted personally. So I expect these things to really work like a champ. So thanks for the hookup, Randy. The pizza was good, and I really appreciate the service. Not a whole lot of other parts on here. We do have some Works Connection bits, little parts and pieces, a Rec MX cover on our oil filter cap there, but a lot of it, like I said, there was stuff that just wasn't available. People don't have a lot of the parts and pieces yet, so we had to kind of do what we could do. Decor Visuals helped with our graphics. Thanks to Danny and the boys over there for that. MotoSeat gave us the good gripper seat. So all the things that we really need to have a fun competitive biker here. We're going to go really just, like I said, stay focused on this motor and see what kind of horsepower we can build out of this engine. So let's get it on the track, and we'll get back to you with some feedback.
Is pretty much where it was when you had it.
right, guys, we came off the track on our Twisted Development Honda 250 with a very big smile. Again, we really just focused on the motor, bone stock suspension. Stuff works pretty well for a stock bike. You can push pretty hard. We were really rough and rutted today, and we definitely found the limits of the stock stuff, but we really wanted to focus on the engine, and man, these guys crushed it. So really just took the stock power band and threw a whole bunch of power all the way across the top of it. The stock power on this thing is very linear, doesn't have any kind of one place where it hits. And this basically is just super strong right as it rolls on, and it carries way, way over the top. So they did exactly what they were trying to do with this, which is create a lot of horsepower, keeping a lot of the reliability, using a lot of the stock parts, something that anybody could afford that was looking to race seriously. Obviously, you're not looking for this kind of horsepower if you're just a weekend warrior, but if you are getting serious about racing, this is the setup. And this throttle body ignition combo, I think, is a big part of it. You know, he's saying the gains that they made through the piston and the exhaust and all those were nice, good little incremental gains, but it's when they put in that ECU and the throttle body where this thing really came to life on the dyno. And all I can tell you is today out here, it's awesome. It feels like a 250 race bike. And from the way this thing comes out of turns, I didn't need to use the clutch nearly as much as you would on a regular 250. You can kind of ride it like a 450 that way. Leave the clutch alone and just use the throttle to come on out of turns. Whether it was coming out of an inside and still getting over jumps, no problem. It was deep today. It was soft and deep, so really robbed a lot of power, and this thing pulled it no problem. In fact, on the stock Honda, we always recommended to everybody to go up a tooth. It comes with a 48. We recommended going to the 49, and I stand by that if you are keeping your bike stock or maybe just an exhaust. However, when you go to something like this, where you're boosting the horsepower numbers way up, I would say go back to stock, go back to that 48. We're going to go back to that just because it will pull it, and then it gives me, kind of keeps me in the meat of the power longer, lets me pull a little bit longer through each gear. They were able to, through mapping, depending on what you want, Jamie can go in and get rid of some of the engine braking or add more. He can play with all that stuff. I liked it right where he had it set up. You know, these guys really have it down where they kind of know where it's going to be best. So when you get it, it's really ready to go. And he told me before we went out, hey, if you want to change that, we can change that, or change how fast it gets through each of the gears. You know, there's a lot of room to work with how you want the power to be delivered. And I said, man, don't touch it. It's perfect. I want just enough engine brake to kind of help me settle into the turns, but not so much that it's kind of, you know, dropping my front end as I come off jumps off the throttle. So it's perfect. These guys absolutely crushed it. And I could take this bike out. I'd probably get the suspension done, but I could take this engine out and be competitive in any class at any level. So Twisted Development guys killed it. Check them out. And they do this throttle body ECU combo for any brand of bike, like I mentioned. And it's especially potent on a 250F. So if you're looking for extra power, something that isn't going to wear out, you don't have to keep rebuilding, that's the ticket. So check those guys out. Really want to thank everyone else that was involved in this build. Had a great time on the Michelin tires. Randy, thank you. StarCross 5s, check them out. Big thanks to the guys at Faster USA for the Wheelset. Decor visuals on the graphics. They did a great job. I think it's really cool looking. Acerbis plastic. This is their all red kit, which they sell obviously for every different bike, different colors. And Renthal Supersprox. Yoshimura, thanks a lot for this exhaust. Again, these were really tough to get right now. They're sold out of them and can't make them fast enough, but he still found one for us, so I appreciate it. And just thanks to all the companies involved. Thank you for watching.